now entering the Horror Sanctum.
Hello, and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm John with Kellen, and we're spoiling you guys this week because we've got a surprise episode. We are joined this week by writer, director, and good pal of the show, Bob Heckman. Bob, welcome back.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be back. The last time I was on, Catherine Mary Stewart and James Taffarelli were on too, right? And
Yes.
then I did like a separate interview with her.
Yes.
Yeah, that was cool. That was fun. So just me today, just solo.
Oh, that's good. That was a great interview.
And you're lacking Jay and
TJ.
Correct.
Yeah, and TJ, yes, Jay and TJ.
Yeah, it's usually four of us, but they couldn't make it on today, so it's half the crew.
Okay.
Twice the fun.
Yeah, double the fun, you're right, exactly. Yeah. So last time we spoke with you about your short film Victim No More, we all enjoyed it. But now you've got something else coming down the pipe. It's called Loose Ends, Victim No More Part 2. So yes. Tell us about it. What's the plot? What's it about?
Well, it's a sequel, obviously, to the first one. And if everybody remembers how the first one ended, it was kind of open-ended. Originally, I just wanted it to be the one movie. And it could be just left as the one movie if you want, and left to the viewer's imagination of what could have happened. Does Jason get defeated at the end? It's up to the viewer. Or does like this kind of battle between final girls and Jason just kind of go on into infinity, But about 6 months after I did the movie, I was like, I kind of want to take that journey again. And I got to have like Friday the 13th kind of stories to tell. And of course, as we all know, the rights issue is still kind of up in the air, and it's getting settled in and out of court and appeals and all kinds of nonsense between Cunningham and Miller. So, and with, Crystal Lake TV show, is it happening? Oh, now it's happening. Now it's not. I hung out with Adrienne King last weekend, and she gave me some of the background on that.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That was kind of interesting. How they like got rid of Brian Fuller, and then basically it comes to too many hands in the pot. And it doesn't sound like a lot of fans of the Friday the 13th franchise are playing in that, toy box. But I decided, I'm like, you know what? I actually have a couple of ideas, and I thought it would be fun to do a Friday the 13th anthology film. Something like Creepshow. Where it's we were talking about Creepshow earlier. For
Kellen's favorite, right?
Yes, I've got
absolute
t-shirts,
favorite.
koozies, coffee mugs.
But the idea of 4 short stories and a wraparound story, kind of getting into the background of some of the characters we didn't get to really spend a lot of time with in that short film, was appealing to me, and it sounded like a fun idea. And I could also show that not all of the people that show up at the end of Victim No More dealt with Jason in the past, but they dealt with or are connected to other Friday the 13th characters kind of spun out of the franchise, out of the series. So there'll be a lot of like twists and surprises and, relatives of, certain characters that will pop up. And I just love anthology films. I love movies with 3 to 5 short stories, and sometimes maybe some of the stories you don't enjoy too much, but there's others you really like and you want to go back and rewatch the whole thing again. So I'm a big fan of like Tales from the Dark Side movie, Body Bags, Creepshow, of course, Trick or Treat, things like that. So I always wanted to make an anthology movie, so this kind of scratches that itch of like, and dealing with my favorite horror franchise, why not? And there hasn't been one, a Friday the 13th anthology. So I thought this would be fun. And yes, it will kind of pick up where the last one left off, and we'll get to see the aftermath of what happened.
So when you write these out, I'm curious with your process. Do you write these in the mind of, okay, I have all these ideas that I'm going to get to at some point, or do you just make a film and say, hey, let's see what happens, and then after it's done, then you think about the next one? How's that work for you?
I'm already thinking of Victim No More 3.
Nice.
Which will be the final chapter on it. I got other projects that I really want to do, and other kind of genres and stuff too. Like it's funny. I was just joking around with somebody recently, kind of half joking, but they were saying like, all right, you make the 3 Victim No More movies, then what? Like, what kind of horror movie are you going to make after that? And I'm just like, who says I'm making a horror movie? I can make a romantic comedy. Horror movies are just the most fun thing to make. And it's probably my favorite genre. But I have sci-fi fantasy ideas. I have like a romantic comedy idea. I got stacks of stories to play with. So yeah, I do. I'm thinking about the third one, but I'm like, I got to get through the second one first, and I've written 3/4 of it, and I just need to like focus down and focus in on it and like just make sure that's as good as I can make it, and see where it goes. I'm sure there'll be some changes here and there as production starts, pre-production. First things first, we got to raise the money, which campaign starts this Friday the 13th, September 13th. And my cat is beating up my slippers. What's that accomplishing? So yes, this Friday the campaign starts, Indiegogo campaign. Hopefully we can raise a lot of money to make this feature-length project. Awesome. So the first one's a short film. This one has to be a feature-length because it's like 4 or 5 stories.
So when you're making them, because I kind of approach this from I used to act some, I used to be in film stuff, but I never was anything where you are, anything like that. So I approach things from like a very nerd perspective. So do you see with your films, where do you see the original Friday films, like as far as being prequels? Like, what do you see as like, hey, these films happen, this is where mine picks up? Do you think about that, or is that just kind of like, that's not as important?
No, it is important to me because I've noticed a lot of fan films, a lot of them will kind of like ignore the ones that they don't like, maybe. Mm-hmm. Or they'll do the whole thing where it's like, oh, this is 30 years after part 7, or decades later after part 6, and we're ignoring the rest, or they'll and it doesn't really fit in any kind of timeline. I'm actually trying to make it fit into a timeline, but not flat out ignoring all the movies, all 12 of them. Mm-hmm. It's just
like Halloween did.
When Halloween did,
kind of the new Halloween, the new trilogy kind of just took everything after one and said that didn't count.
Right. Yeah, and that's kind of annoying because for fans, what if we like the whole brother sister story from part 2, 4, 5, and 6? Right. What if we like that timeline? It's Halloween's a different story. We got 5 different timelines to play with. I remember how pissed off I was when H2O came out, and they ignored everything after part 2. Yeah. They ignored the I guess it's called the Thorn trilogy, or 4, 5, and 6. And I'm like, what the hell? Why they? You don't have to ignore it. You could just say that, maybe in one line they could have said like, I had a daughter, and she passed away years ago. That could be it, or pretend it was a copycat killer, or they thought it was a copycat killer or something like that. Something could be done in one sentence to like just satisfy the fans, to say like, we're not ignoring those movies.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of looking at a way of I don't want to seem like I'm ignoring any of the Friday the 13th movies, because any one of those 12 movies is somebody's favorite movie. There's a huge following for like Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, and like some of these movies that might fall down the bottom of most people's lists. But so I'm not ignoring them, I'm not mentioning them, but maybe I'll mention them through a character or something, just to let you know that they kind of all exist in the same kind of world. Um, there are things in it, yeah. So I'm doing it in a way of where you could place where any one of these stories can take place, as far as like certain character reveals or a setting of one of the movies can fit like in between this Friday 13th and this Friday 13th, something like that. When in the end, when it comes down to it, by the third movie, I will say everything I have to say about Friday 13th. I will try to satisfy myself with any kind of timelines and things that I want to do, and just hopefully a lot of people like what I do, and you wish for the best.
Well, yeah, you can tell.
Number one thing is make myself happy. So,
oh
and
yeah,
my friends, if they enjoy it and have a good time, I'm totally happy. So,
well, I appreciate you're a fan, and I can tell you have a lot of love for it. I think a lot of times it's weird with these franchises, like they've almost become choose your own adventure, like you were talking about. I mean,
yeah,
Friday, you've got the Paramount films, you've got the New Line films, you've got
yeah.
a lot of people talk about 1 through 4, and then the Jarvis stuff. It's nice
Jarvis
that
trilogy, yeah.
You seem to be like a holistic fan of the series in the sense that you appreciate what it means versus cherry picking necessarily. Would that be correct?
Yeah, I kind of respect all of them to a certain degree, and I definitely respect people's personal rankings of all those movies, because as we know, Friday 13th out of all the franchises seems to have the most, like, you pick 5 hardcore fans, they have a completely different ranking system of like what their favorites are, like what their top 5 is, it's always all over the place. Like I said, somebody's favorite one is Jason Goes to Hell or Jason X, and then a lot of the people that like really grew up with them could be like 4, 6, 2, 3 is their favorite. Like you don't. It's always different.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's not the first one at the top of people's lists. So, but
why do you think that people? And I always ask this because it's a weird thing with Jason. Why do you think people really root for him and like him, like as a killer? What is it about that character that makes it like when you watch these movies, you're thinking, yeah, Jason, like let's see what he can do,
Yeah, I mean he's our like modern day, monster. He's our, like the Universal monsters, the Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman era. It's like, well, that's our era's Jason, Michael, Freddy, and others. So, I mean, Jason it feels like he's I don't know, he seems to be the horror icon that you could have the most fun with.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain campiness to the films, and I always compare him to like Godzilla, where it's like, there's 37, I think, Godzilla movies, and they kind of do everything with him. And it's kind of the same thing with Jason. It's like, they'll put him in space, they'll do this. Now he's, it's like that Godzilla thing where it's like, oh, let's see what Jason adventure could happen now.
I think you can also look at it as he was the one that was wrong.
What's up?
I think you could also look at it as Jason was wronged. Like Freddy was a predator. Michael Myers was a psychopath. Jason was wronged. I mean, he was out for revenge. He's just not killing for killing's sake. He was back to get revenge on the people that wronged him.
Right, and it's
a true underdog story.
It's like Rocky, right? It's just like Rocky.
Jason Balboa.
It's just like Rudy,
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and of course we're showing up for creative kills and see what kind of, once he became like unstoppable zombie Jason from part 6 on. Then it was kind of like anything goes now. The movie after that, he's fighting a girl with telekinesis. He's, like, it's just like you said, it's kind of a choose your own adventure thing. And I think it's just the fun of Jason, whereas like Freddy and Michael kind of stick to like their suburban neighborhoods.
Yeah.
It's like Jason can kind of like go anywhere. It'd be great if he goes back to Crystal Lake and we have like a camp setting again, but
equal opportunity slasher.
Right.
Yeah.
So when it's interesting, like when you're making a movie like this, and I love the first one. I think we all were fans of it. I also love that you've done the you have it to where it's perfect. It perfectly lines up with collections. It's great, like in collections, right?
Yes, you could take out you can put it in the Scream Factory collection set. Yeah. If you take out the bonus disc and slip that in, it could be the 13th movie if you want it to be.
Do you, when you work with the actors who are playing Jason, is it? I don't know. This is kind of going really deep in the psyche of a character, but
oh God,
what
Jason thinks,
right? Do you approach it like with the character of, hey, he's a killer, he's brutal, there's nothing humorous here, or do you let the actor kind of give you something and work off of that? Because it's interesting how people can approach Jason, right? Like we perceive him one way, but as a film, as a character, he's a monster. He's a killer, right? So I'm always interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, with the Jason that I had, played by James Taffarelli, I kind of just gave him a couple of notes, and he kind of just went with it. And he's a fan himself, so he kind of takes from the Jasons that he grew up watching and just kind of put his own thing on it. A couple of my notes were like, I'm like, Jason's dead. I don't want to see him breathing. So I don't want to see a Kane Hodder impression.
Right.
Because as soon as somebody puts on that outfit, especially if it's like a Part 7 type body, they start doing the, the quick head moves and the breathing thing. And, every cosplayer, likes to do that. Not that there's anything wrong with it. Kane, if that Jason's your favorite Jason, that's awesome. But I was like, he's dead. I don't want to see you breathe. So just when I say action, hold your breath and just, do what I need. Slow moving. There are a few moments in the movie that I did kind of want to get into Jason's head a little bit. When he first picks up the hockey mask. And right there, every viewer of Victim No More is thinking, oh, he's going to put on the hockey mask, and that's how he gets the hockey mask. But I wanted him to really look at the mask, and maybe we can get into Jason's head a little bit, because he starts kind of touching it or caressing it, almost like, hey, that's my old friend, the hockey mask. But it could also be like, this mask doesn't feel right. Maybe, who knows, maybe it's a cheaper plastic. Maybe he didn't like that the guy wearing it before him was mocking him. We don't know what's going through his head, but it just didn't feel right to him. So he sees the sack laying on the ground, and maybe Jason has memories like everyone else. He maybe he was being nostalgic about the good old days from 40 years ago when he was running around with the sack for years, before Part 2. So I thought it'd be fun that he, to do a mashup where he puts on the sack instead of the mask. And there's a part later on in the movie where he's kind of chasing the main kid around, and there's a few times where he could have just killed him. But he's kind of just messing with him, putting a little scare into him. Like when the kid is hiding by the tree. I just had this recently, a comment on YouTube. I think it was last week, where somebody said Jason would have never missed by the tree, missed the kid's head. I'm like, well, yeah, he never would have missed, but I think he's playing cat and mouse with him. He's he doesn't know who else is in these woods and who else. He knows he can kill that kid in the end. So it's let me scare the shit out of this kid, and just fucking chase him around my woods that I know very well. So
yeah.
Little did Jason know he didn't know he was going to be surrounded by a bunch of survivors that were gonna, try to take him out. But yeah, so I kind of like getting into the head of Jason and wondering what he thinks, and I mean, and it's shown in the movies too. Like there's moments in the movies where you see that he is thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Like when Corey Feldman shaves his head and everything, but he stops and thinks, and he's like walking up to, Tommy Jarvis, and it's like, well, what was he gonna do? Like, before Trish, knocked off his mask and everything. You're like, he could definitely think. He's definitely has memories of some sort. So
I actually think personally, Ted White is my favorite. I just think that Jason, like that is the one Friday movie that I think is scary. Like actually, like there's something about him in that movie. He's just like dangerous. Like
he's a beast.
Yes. Yeah. And I love 2. I love 4. I love the first one. But man, that fourth, as far as I think the best one is still the first one. But I think as far as scary, the fourth one is it's creepy. I don't know what it is about that performance, but it's very odd the way he did it.
Yeah. And you said creepy. I still think like the first one has the best most creepy scenes, like where you hear just the child's voice out in the rain.
Yeah.
Like help me, like that's creepy. If you heard that in real life, you'd be shitting yourself. Yeah, but 4 is definitely he's a beast in that, Ted White.
So I did want to ask, and I know you probably can't tell anything about this, if so, but
I love Creep Show.
No.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
No, we all do. Kellen. No.
Never letting it go. I gave Abigail a 1 as well, so we can just talk
about that's the other one. I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring up Abigail. I'm like, what? Vampire Fun? You didn't like that one either?
I gave it a 0, but it got bumped up because of another movie we watched. That was really terrible.
Oh my God. I think that was the last episode I watched, the Abigail one. I was like, oh no.
That was the breaking point.
We don't represent those views collectively.
No. I mean, the only part of Abigail I really had a problem with was I didn't
everything
like
after the opening credits.
Yes. No, I just didn't like the one guy turning into a vampire at the end.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, they could have found a way to just get rid of him, and then it would have just been dealing with the main girl, Abigail, and the father coming in at the end. Like, it's like
you didn't feel like it was a whole Martha
this
thing?
Other guy turning into a vampire. What?
You didn't feel like it was a whole Martha thing, like in Batman versus Superman? Did you say Martha? That's what it felt like when she was like, "Oh, you have daddy issues? I have
daddy issues.
We're best friends."
Martha. But no, I did want to ask, do you have is there any surprises, cameos, actors, actresses you have lined up that, even if you can't tell us, do you have anything in the pipeline for that perhaps, could happen in this one?
Well, Catherine Mary Stewart's coming back. I don't know if you saw the trailer.
I did. It was great.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. And it was so much fun shooting that, because it was like, we just shot clips of like, to give people the gist or the idea. It's a promo teaser, to like help raise money. But it kind of gives you the gist of what it could be about. So yeah, Catherine Mary Stewart will come back. Jill Whitlow is coming back as the therapist.
Cool.
But yes, there are two, maybe 3 Friday the 13th franchise alumni that I'm kind of in contact with that I might try to bring on board. 2 of them, actually. And 1 Nightmare on Elm Street person.
So, oh, wow. Okay.
The 1 Nightmare on Elm Street person is pretty much completely on board. But I got to get together with the Friday people. And 1 I haven't contacted at all. But I thought it'd be a really fun cameo near the end of the movie. to have them. But there are cameos of characters from the Friday 13 series that that I replaced with kind of what I did with Catherine Mary Stewart. It's like I had to replace Jennifer Cook with Catherine,
right,
as to play Megan.
Sure.
And if anybody has a problem with that, like just replacing the character with another actor, I always say, well, they replaced Tommy Jarvis like twice.
Exactly.
So it's like, you shouldn't really, bitch, but it's always great when somebody, from a beloved film, comes back to reprise their role and stuff. But so in those surprise cameos, you'll get some surprise twists that you're not going to expect.
Very cool.
But and hopefully it doesn't really take away from. I'm not retconning anything. I'm just adding more information. So yeah, I'm a little bit funny with that word retcon. So
it's a unique approach you talked about earlier about instead of trying to ignore parts of a franchise to try to bring them all together through an anthology set or try to at least give an homage to each one. Even if it's and that really hits to the big fans because they're the ones that are going to catch that. They're the ones that are going to catch that line or that mention. So that's fantastic. And does show that your love for the franchise and for the fans as well. So with all that to say, we're going to switch gears.
Oh, here we go. Now the crazy questions are coming.
Yes, it is time for Kellen's Fast Five. That's right. 5 quick questions. So first thing to pop
next,
in your
I'm going to do a remake of Loaded Weapon 1.
With Emilio Estevez.
That'd be awesome.
With Emilio, yes. I just picked the most random thing off.
That's a good choice. It's a funny movie.
Midnight Madness. Michael J. Fox's first movie. Remember this?
Wow. Man, I've never seen that. I've heard of it, but wow.
Yeah.
Is that in a bubble package? From the 90s?
It's a Disney movie from DVD. What about Killer Tomatoes Eat France?
Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, no.
Y'all could do an entire show between you, John, and Jay just going
through the most ridiculous things that are on my shelf, all the terrible movies.
So here we go. Here's the rules. 5 questions. We're going to go through as quick as possible. I'll read the question. First thing to pop in your head, give an answer. If you want to elaborate, that's up to you. But are you ready?
There's shit talking with me. Okay.
All right.
Okay. Number 1. Yes. Wait, do they have to be rapid response or
just the first thing to pop into your head? Now, some people they elaborate, they deliberate a little bit because some of these questions can kind of be a little difficult to just answer real quick. They're all in fun, so don't stress that.
Okay.
We're all here to have a good time. So,
all right.
If you're ready. Here we go. Question number 1. Would you rather be stuck in a horror film come to life with Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers?
Jason Voorhees.
Oh wow.
Be like, you're my favorite, and then I would die.
Then he'd cock his head to the side and look at you for
he just wanted his machete back. I don't know.
All right. Question number 2. Would you rather star in or direct a modern day horror classic?
So this is a remake of a classic?
No, this is a movie that's going to end up becoming a classic along the lines of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Friday the 13th, yes. Halloween. Would you rather be the star in or be the person who directed it?
I would absolutely rather direct. I am not a fan of acting, even though I do it for friends' films. If I have to say more than 3 lines, and I'm fine if you put me in a wig and I'm like some kind of wacky character. I'm fine like that, but as far as
I feel like it's one of those things. If you direct it, that's going to push you on to other directing gigs. If you act in it, it's a double-edged sword. You're beloved by fans, but you could be typecast as that person for the rest of your career.
Right. I'd rather write and direct. I'd much rather do that.
That seems to be a consistent answer. Anybody that I ask that has done both roles or has had at least a piece of each, they typically go towards that side. So,
as long as I could do the little Hitchcock cameo thing, which I did in my first movie, I'll probably do it in the sequel. I'll probably appear in the background or something like that, or walk by or something like that.
Fun fact: me and Alfred Hitchcock share a birthday.
Oh, happy birthday!
August 13th.
When that happens. Oh, it passed. Okay.
I'll bet Alfred Hitchcock liked Creepshow. If he would have seen it, he would have liked it.
I think this is a fantastic film.
I don't know. I don't know if he would.
I don't know. You never know. That's true. He had an odd taste. He was very.
Yeah, he'd be like, I prefer Creepshow 3.
Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, no.
Yeah.
The other two are for the birds.
For the birds.
Okay, number 3. If you were the killer in a horror film, what would be your weapon of choice?
Oh, man. That was the killer. Oh, man, that's hard to answer right away.
You have to just go slashing through the town.
What I was going to say,
it's the weapon that you're going to be known
like
for the rest of horror fandom.
A pizza cutter. That's what I would be. I would be killing with a pizza cutter.
I can already see it just rolling across someone's throat and blood squirts across the room.
keep that in mind, because you might see that pop up in this movie.
Hey, tie-ins, gotta love it.
Tie-ins. Yeah.
All right, number 4. Who is the greatest scream queen? Jamie Lee Curtis, Linda Blair, or a third?
Ooh. I don't really consider Linda Blair a scream queen, because she doesn't. I mean, she does scream, I guess, a little bit, but I didn't really consider her as a scream queen. You know whose scream I absolutely love was Dana Kimmel in Friday Part 3.
She was, yeah.
when she does that no at the end, like when Jason like puts his arms out, I love that. Mm-hmm. You know what? Because she's such a great friend, I'm gonna say, Kimberly Beck.
Oh, nice.
There you go, and that's why I leave it open ended in case there was somebody that you had an affinity for.
I mean,
trying to be
Daniel Harris is pretty up there, I guess, but I don't know. But I'll say Kimberly Beck. I mean, I love Trish Jarvis, so Jenny I think is a better final girl, but I love my Kim Beck. Perfect. Why not? I'll make her the scream queen.
Hey, these are your answers. No wrong ones. All right. Ready for number 5?
Yes.
Is there something you've seen in a movie recently where you said to yourself, man, I wish I would have thought of
that? Man. In a violent nature, there was a bunch of moments in that where I was just like, all right, I kind of dig that.
That movie was definitely saved by those moments. It could have been a slog if they didn't have certain things in that movie that kind of pulls you back in from walking.
Well, that's the only problem I had with it, really. It's like if they cut out 15 minutes of walking.
Right.
Like, it was my same problem with the DiCaprio movie, where he gets mauled by the bear, and then there's like 20 minutes in the movie where it's DiCaprio just crawling across the ground, The Revenant. It's just him crawling across the ground and moaning for 20 minutes.
Let's see. You said horror movie or any movie?
Any movie in recent memory where you saw it and you're like, oh, I wish I would have thought of that.
Oh my God. I recently seen, I don't know why my mind's going to this. I mean, there was plenty of movies that came out like this year where there was moments where I was like, oh my God, that was great. That was a great idea. You know, like In a Violent Nature, a few things in there, and Maxine, a couple of moments in there too were cool. And
hopefully not the stomping scene.
No, God, that was yeah, no, not the nut stomping scene. But there was a movie that I watched last year. It's from 1973. Oh, you said modern.
Your answer. Any movie. Go with 1973. Yeah, go with that.
Okay.
Anything you've watched recently.
Well, I watched it recently. So last year I watched this movie called The Baby. The
Oh
Baby,
yes,
1973.
I haven't seen that, but I've seen clips of it.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. The ending, like just everything leading up to what happens in those last 5 minutes is like, what? Like, because it's like a slow burn kind of 70s, horror movie. And you're waiting kind of for the horror to like happen. And it's this family that has, I'm not going to spoil what happens, obviously, but like, it's this family that is taking care of a grown man and treating him like a baby. It's like it's a mom, two sisters, and their brother they won't allow to grow up. And he just makes baby noises. He's not allowed to speak or anything. So he's just a grown man making baby noises through the whole movie. And there's a social worker that's trying to like get him away from the family. That's all I'll say. But look for this movie because it was a movie that my friends and I watched. We're like, hey, let's watch this, it sounds weird. So the three of us, two of my best friends, were sitting here watching us, and we all like sat up at the same time in the last like 10 minutes of the movie, and we all went, "Holy shit!" Like so it was just a really cool twist that we did not see coming. And I was like, "Oh my God, I wish I thought of that. I wish I like thought of this idea."
Mhm.
If anything, somebody should remake it, and because nobody's heard of this movie, really. So that's what I think they should be remaking is like a lot of movies that not a lot of people have heard of,
Mhm.
but they're like these little gems that are thrown in there from like 60s and the 70s and maybe even the 80s that nobody even like heard of. Like there's a lot of great Hammer films
Yeah.
with like great twists at the end and stuff. And it's like, oh my God, they should totally remake this psychological thriller and put it in modern day and it could still work. So I don't know. So yeah, once in a while I come across things and I wish I thought of that.
I'm
So
honestly surprised, and you brought up Catherine Mary Stewart. I'm very surprised they have not remade The Last Starfighter yet, because I could easily see them doing that and do,
yeah.
especially with like Ready Player One and all these type of, I could just see Hollywood grabbing that and trying to redo that again.
Yeah, Universal and the writer have been trying to work on something the last couple of years where they want to do like and which it makes me happy. They're not trying to remake it, but they're trying to like sequelize it.
Yeah,
Where it's like their children become like the next starfighters and stuff. So because you know, um, they're building up the Starfighter Legion or whatever it's called. And they, Catherine and Lance Guest would be in there, playing the parents. So that's been kind of sitting on a shelf for a while. Um, yeah, and I don't mind remakes. I honestly don't. Uh, as long as they do kind of something different with it, and it's not beat for beat, kind of like like I don't want to see what they did with like Psycho and The Omen
oh right.
remakes, where it was just beat for beat exactly like I know where it's going.
The New Strangers.
Oh
Oh
God.
yeah, I didn't even bother, but I heard everybody across the board was like, "Oh, this is just a remake of the first one." I'm like, okay, then I don't need to see it. But
Unless you're like me and hadn't seen the first Strangers to begin with, and this is a brand new
then
film.
it's fine.
It's fantastic.
Oh, there you go.
And everybody else in the group is disappointed in me yet again.
Well, that's the thing too. That's why I don't mind remakes so much, because if they remake a movie that like I never paid much attention to begin with, then it's new to me,
Right.
and I might like I was never nuts over The Crow when it
Sure.
first came out. I mean, but everybody in my high school, uh, especially the goth kids, love The Crow. It was the greatest movie ever made, blah blah blah. They just love the story. I always like a good revenge story. I seen it and I was just like, okay, it's fine, but whatever. So I didn't see the remake, but I heard like a lot of people hated it who loved the original Crow. Now, would I like it because I have no attachment to the original Crow? I don't know.
Yeah.
There was a lot of movies in that era that were kind of, I mean, even you could compare it a little bit to Spawn, the first Spawn. It was that dark kind of, always felt like it was rainy or it was night every time that
Yeah,
the
film
camera was
noir.
on.
Yeah.
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 And I can see that guy. I didn't see The Crow when it came out. I saw it later in life, which happens a lot for me. But I get why people would have some nostalgia for it, but it wasn't something that I watched and was just like, well, this is groundbreaking. Like it's fun.
Right.
Brandon Lee is good in it. I don't get why there's such an affinity specifically for that movie. It doesn't feel to me like it's something that's like, wow.
Yeah, it's the right time, the right place, and where those people were. Like we all have favorite movies that other people can't understand why the hell we like those movies, like Creepshow.
I just recently got the Arrow release of Friday the 13th remake, and
yes.
I have to say, I know a lot of people don't think this. I think the opening to that movie is probably it's the
fantastic.
Best opening to any Friday the 13th ever.
Okay.
Like that first 10 minutes is absolutely insane. And I know the movie
I would say 20 minutes. I think it's 20 minutes.
Yeah, I guess it is like 20, but man,
it's like its own short film,
Yeah, I never understood the hate for that film because I thought, man, they really Platinum Dunes actually kind of got it right in that one time.
Yeah, out of all the remakes of those classics, I think the Friday the 13th one was one of the best. I mean, Hills Have Eyes was, I thought, great. The Hills Have Eyes remake.
Yeah.
But the Friday the 13th, 2009, I was like, you know what? I think they did a good job with introducing Jason to the next generation by taking the first four movies, mashing them together, and spitting this movie out. You got Sackhead Jason for a short time. You got that great opening showing how brutal he is. And introducing a bunch of kids hanging out, which is like part 3 and 4, and the guy looking for his sister. That's straight up out of part 4.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it flowed really well. Some of the kills were cool. I like it. I don't know. I thought it was a really good job of reintroducing the world to Jason. And now they got to do it again.
Yeah.
Because 15 years ago, so it's a whole new generation. I say if there is going to be another Friday the 13th, they need to kind of reboot it again, kind of starting from scratch and just kind of, doing it again. I don't think they should, do a strictly Pamela story, but they could mix the both. They could do part Pamela and part Jason. I don't know. There's a lot of people that are like our ages that are just like, no, they need to make a new Friday the 13th and it needs to take place in the 80s. And I'm like, it's never going to be what you want it to be. I think you need to let that idea go because nostalgia can like hurt us sometimes. So, because it won't be quite right. So it's like, just let them tell the story for next generation and just see what happens. In the meantime, I'm having fun playing in the sandbox of the 80s and 90s, early 2000s Jason. So
exactly. And you're never gonna get that feeling of like that Paramount logo popping up. Like that is a 1980s thing, right? So like you said. And so I guess before we wrap up, I did want to give you a chance to plug the film, like the fundraiser, what we can expect, where we can see it in the future. So yeah.
Okay. Well, Victim No More 2. It's going to be a feature-length anthology. Hoping to be under 90 minutes. Because there's a thing where sometimes low-budget movies, if they're more than 90 minutes, some of them are a struggle if they're not up to par with special effects and storytelling and everything. So I'm trying to keep it under 90 minutes. Not that we're going to have a problem in, quality like that, but the more money we raise, the better the quality, the better the production, the better everything. So this Friday, September the 13th, look for it. I'll be posting on all the Friday 13th pages on Facebook, Instagram, horror sites. We are starting the goal at 13,000, which is the same for the original movie. But I know we're going to pass 13,000 with all the former contributors and all the new contributors that want to like support. So we're going to pass 13. So we have the stretch goals. So like we can be like, let's go for 20. Let's go for 30. Let's try to get as high as we can to make the best movie we can. And get all those like cameo appearances and fun. It'll, you know, I think it's just going to be a lot of fun, this movie. I will be in Blairstown, New Jersey, where they shot the original Friday 13th this Friday, promoting the movie, promoting the launch of the campaign at the Blairstown Diner.
Oh,
wow. It's an event called Fear is on the Menu Part 2. Ari Lehman will be there with his first Jason band. Bill Randolph, Jeff from Friday 13 Part 2 will be there. Ron Milkey, the cop from Part 1. Author R.G. Henning, who wrote the great books Sackhead and Jason 3D, which are retrospectives on the second movie and the third movie. Hopefully he does the final chapter next, and the first movies. Still got to do the first movie. But they'll all be there and we'll all be just hanging out, and I'll be selling Victim No More merch and just trying to like promote the next project.
Awesome. Well, that's it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube wherever you listen to the podcast. Check us out on Instagram, TikTok, our Facebook group. We're always talking about movies. Bob, thanks for joining us. We're really looking forward to it.
So much for having me.
Absolutely. We love the first one, and everybody really needs to support this because more Friday the 13th.
And please like and subscribe and comment and on 3PD Films on YouTube. Look for Victim No More on 3PD Films on YouTube. And I'll be posting a lot of videos soon. We're also going to do like a live video this Saturday, James Taffarelli and I, because we're going to be in New Jersey for that event on Friday. So the next morning, we're going to do a live video where if anybody wants to pop on and ask us questions, it'll probably be like 10:30 in the morning or something like that. I haven't shared that anywhere yet, but I should this week. So that's it.
Awesome. Well, signing off, I'm John with Kellen and Bob Heckman. And until next time,
keep it spooky.
Keep it spooky.
Awesome. Thanks so much, man. It's a good interview.
Definitely
looking forward to it.
Thanks.
I hate that I missed the first one.
Yeah. Well, if there's a third one, let me know.
So what are you watching tonight? I have to ask. What are you lined up?
What was I gonna watch? I keep bouncing around to different franchises. So like I finished watching all the Mad Max movies.
Oh God. Fury Road is like maybe one of my favorite movies ever.
Yeah, that's the one I just watched last night. So I absolutely love it. So I keep bouncing around. So I'm watching I watched all the Mad Max movies. I'm trying to rewatch all the Terminator movies. So I'm up to Salvation now. So I might watch that tonight, the director's cut, which I don't think I've ever seen. So I'm kind of curious. I wonder if the director's cut is Christian Bale like yelling at crew members.
You've heard the cinematographer,
yeah, yelling at the cinematographer. That's so unprofessional. Yeah. That should have been a bonus on that disc.
I know, that's funny.
I was trying to like go through the Children of the Corn movies.
Oh God.
Since we're in fall, and I'm like, let me watch the Children of the Corn movies. So I watched the first three, which I enjoy the first three.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be like, I don't feel like watching part 4.
So
but I'm going to push myself through them.
So part 2 and 3, there's a guy in the movie.
I think those are the best ones. So.
Yes, with the wheelchair going through the.
Oh my God.
So there's a doctor.
House lands on her, the one woman.
Oh yeah.
And it's almost like the Wicked Witch. she goes, "What a world!" and the house collapses on her. Oh my god, so funny.
So
Sorry.
no, it's what's weird is there's a guy in that movie. He's an older actor. He plays a doctor in part 2 and 3, and he's killed by the kids. They like come into his office and kill him.
Yeah.
So that guy, and I know this is not a Mandela thing. When I was little, he was an actor, and he used to do commercials for a chain called Fred's Dollar Store.
Okay.
And I swear that guy did it. I cannot find anywhere on the internet that guy did that. And I know he did it. I looked at IMDb. I looked at everything.
Can you look up the old commercials?
I can't find them. Yeah, they don't, because it was like it was a chain that was mostly in the Southeast. So a lot of that stuff just isn't on YouTube. But I vividly remember him doing those commercials. So when I saw that movie, I was like, why is the Fred's Dollar Store guy in Children of the Corn? What? But yeah.
That's why this popped in my head. Jay sent a picture in our group chat of a book that he bought. It's one that I read by Grady Hendrix. I really love. Of all of us, I've probably read the most horror. I've read a lot of horror books. I think I'm at like 60 for the last 2 years. But there's a book that I would absolutely love to see made into a movie called Clown in the Cornfield, and I don't know why they haven't made it yet. I know Grady Hendrix, who's written the Final Gore support group, which is fantastic.
Right. I'm actually in the middle of the support group book right now because I'm wondering if some ideas will come out of that book for me to put into this movie.
Yeah.
Read. I would suggest read Clown in the Cornfield because a lot of it is kind of like a slasher. It's this mascot for the town is this clown, and he starts killing the teens.
Oh my god!
And it comes to a head at the end, and there's a scene where there's a barn where a lot of the teens are in there having this like end of year party, and he sets it on fire. And
oh my god!
They're like crossbow. The clown has a crossbow at one point, and he's shooting kids as they're running out of the barn. I mean, it's an intense book. There's 2 of them. But it's such a great novel, and I think it would translate to film so well. I don't know why nobody's picked up the rights, or maybe they haven't. I just haven't heard about it.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, I mean, he's become a popular horror writer.
Clown in the Cornfield is Adam Cesare.
Okay.
But it's along the lines of kind of this.
Oh, okay. It's not Grady Hendrix.
No, he did. He did another book that I read. I've got it over here somewhere. I don't see it right now.
The Exorcist of something.
Yeah, My Best Friend's Exorcism.
Yeah.
Which would make a great exorcism film because it's not like any of the others that they've put out. We've talked about that in one of the episodes. Was it Believer? Exorcism Believer?
Yeah, I think so.
Where it's just nobody's ever going to be able to capture the magic of the first exorcism, and every movie they've put out since has just been kind of a disappointment.
There's a section.
This is a different take, and it's really good.
There's a section in the Final Girl support group, and I don't want to spoil it, but there's a part in that book where they go to a house, and it's very creepy. Like, there's this guy. I don't want to spoil it, but
don't spoil it.
Yeah,
I'm at the point where somebody was shooting at the main girl.
Yes.
And her friends in the house, and she just like grabbed the bag and bailed and just went out.
That's probably like a third. Yeah.
It's kind of a third into it, I guess.
And she's kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis. She's not Jamie Lee Curtis, but she's kind of like Jamie Lee Curtis in the way that she's been prepping because like her apartment has the 2-stage door.
Right. Yeah.
Like she's not letting anybody get to her.
No, I'm enjoying it a lot. And one thing I realized when I was starting to write this movie, and you could see in the trailer that I put a couple of guys in the support group because I didn't want it to be like, oh, this is just all girl power woman's group kind of thing, which of course at the end of Victim No More it feels like that. But I wanted to add in like, there's final boys too. I mean, half of the Friday the 13th movies, there's final boys in there. Yeah. So I had to sprinkle a couple of them in there too. And you'll find out that like, the guys have their jobs too, so, and as I was reading that Final Girl support group, I was like, I'm like, there's guys that went through trauma too. Come on.
Honestly, if you like Grady Hendrix, the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires, that to me was like the best adaptation of Salem's Lot I've ever read. Like when I read that, I was like, I just thought, oh my God, this is like Salem's Lot, but just a different story, you know?
Salem's Lot. It's funny. I started reading 4 books, and I'm trying to like get through all of them.
Yeah.
Salem's Lot I started reading 2 years ago, and I still haven't finished it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he did. What was the other book he did? How to Sell a Haunted House, I think, is the other one.
I haven't read that one yet.
That one's really good too. That's a good twist on.
They look like quick reads too, so I don't know. I mean, but I'm busy writing the script now, so basically, I'm gonna get through Final Girl support group first. Then I want to go back and finish Salem's Lot. There's another Stephen King book that I started, Holly, based on the character from like The Outsider and the Mr. Mercedes novels.
Yeah.
I was really enjoying that. I hate because I have like OCD. Like I have to like complete things. Like these movies that I'm watching, I'm like, I gotta watch them all again. You know? I'm like, I know half the Children of the Corn movies like suck, but it's like I have them all. I want to rewatch them all, and then I'll probably get rid of them because I know I'm probably only gonna wind up liking the first 3. You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a completist. I need to like see and read everything.
Yeah.
So it's driving me crazy to have 4 half-read books sitting on the shelf.
I know you mentioned earlier, I have to recommend this because I always have to recommend this movie. You mentioned you like revenge stories.
I do.
Have you ever seen Vigilante, the Bill Lustig movie?
No, I started watching it and I was enjoying it and I never finished it.
That movie is so awesome.
You know why? Because it was on Amazon. I started watching it and I was halfway through and I wanted to continue the next day and they took it off. And it just reaffirms like why I need physical media because I did the same thing I was watching Purple Rain like a month ago.
Oh wow.
Because I was like, I don't think I've ever watched this full movie. So I started watching it and then it vanished off of whatever streaming site I was watching it on. And I'm just like, what the fuck? So I'm going through all the streaming and it's like, no, it's just gone. Now I got to pay for it. And it's like,
that's how they get you.
Yeah, they could make you, but I'm a huge Charles Bronson fan.
Oh, it's right in that vein.
I got a whole Bronson collection here, and I love the Death Wish movies, Death Hunt, The Mechanic, Mr. Majestic, anything 10 to Midnight, revenge movies. I love my Bronson.
Oh yeah.
He does a lot of coming of age stories. Yeah. Oh no, what did you call it before? Underdog.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Vigilante. Not a lot of coming of age stories have that many bullets in them.
Right. Yeah. Especially Death Wish 3, which is bonkers.
Vigilante is definitely one of those movies I don't know, the way they shot it, and I love Robert Forster, and it's so no bullshit. Like even the ending, it's like it's one of those movies you watch and you're just like, hell yes, like by the end of it. Like there's no pull punches. It's like everything you want to happen happens in the movie. So,
good. That's what I like when people get their comeuppance.
Oh yeah.
Like I've only seen the movie once. We all know it. I Spit on Your Grave.
Yeah.
She gets her revenge at the end.
Mm-hmm.
It's very satisfying, but it's like it's so brutal with the raping and stuff like that. Like that I just can't watch it again. But yeah, I like revenge things.
I Stood on Your Grave 3 has one of the most brutally violent scenes in all of cinema.
I think I've seen that one. That's not the Deja Vu.
That's where she's going down on the guy in the alley, and then she sticks a knife up through his member and splits it, and then grabs both halves and pulls it. And out,
oh my god.
Okay, I didn't see that one.
That's worse than anything they thought about doing in Maxine. But yeah, that was.
That's brutal, man.
It's horrifying, and they show it. They're not shy about watching it happen.
That is brutal.
Yeah.
Well, it's been fun. I've got to jump off here. Family stuff, but thank you so
much
for coming
you.
on yeah, absolutely. Great meeting you. Thank you for coming on the pod again. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I wanted to hit up all the podcasts that I've really enjoyed doing the first time around with the first movie. And you guys were great. So I have two other repeat podcasts that I still have to do. And then there's a couple of others I'm trying to get on. Death Curse Society, I'm trying to get on their show, and a couple of others. But
thank you for the kind words. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Now go watch Creepshow and enjoy it.
That's an order.
That's an order. You enjoy it, you like it, and you give okay. But I'll see you guys later.
All right.
Thank you so
Thanks so much, Bob. You have a good one.
You got it.